Russell Brand got kicked out of the GQ Men's Awards, which I'm amused by because Russell Brand is always a little bit of a rabble-rouser when it comes to events like this. And he was talking about the sponsor of the event, Hugo Boss, and said the following: "If anyone knows a bit about history and fashion, you know it was Hugo Boss who made uniforms for the Nazis. But they looked fucking fantastic, let's face it, while they were killing people on the basis of their religion and sexuality."
Okay. This dude has got a giant set on him, man. I'll be honest with you. Oh, we're here at Rebel headquarters. We're badass, whatever. I couldn't begin to have said that. Look, he took it way over the top, right? That's their top sponsor. They're gonna lose it,
yeah.
And of course they did.
So the editor said, "What you did was very offensive to Hugo Boss," and Russell Brand responded, "What Hugo Boss did was very offensive to the Jews."
Damn.
Damn. I like Russell Brand. He's freaking sexy.
Yeah, no, Russell Brand is obviously belongs at Rebel headquarters. Apparently,
Yes.
He should lead Rebel headquarters. But now, look, of course, to be fair, what happened with Hugo Boss was a long time ago. That was during World War II. But at the same time, it was Hugo Boss, the guy that the company is named after, right?
Right. So Hugo Boss did make uniforms for the Nazis, and I mean, obviously that's disastrous in and of itself. And part of the issue with a lot of these companies, these American companies that continue to operate in the United States, is that they won't admit guilt. They won't apologize for their involvement with Nazi Germany. So Hugo Boss was one of them. Another company was actually Volkswagen, and IBM, Bayer, and Siemens. So let me explain all of these companies to you guys. So it turns out that Hitler really liked Porsches, and Porsche and Volkswagen at the time, and I believe still till this day, are owned by the same company. So he wanted efficient small cars for his people to drive around. So the owner of Volkswagen actually worked with him to design the car. So that Beetle that you're driving, part of that was created by Hitler, which is insane. He helped to design the car.
So now, look, these are all international companies.
Yeah.
Obviously, Volkswagen was a German company at the time. IBM was an American company. So, when you look back at it, you're like, working with the Nazis, oh my God.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, the people are doing business with everybody. Like, they were hardcore capitalists, right? They're like, we're open for business. So Prescott Bush had his company. Of course, the grandfather of George W. Bush, the father of George H.W. Bush, had his financial company, had dealings with Germany, because they had dealings with all these different countries at the time, different governments at the time. Oftentimes people would go back and be like, did you know Prescott Bush worked for the Nazis? No, he didn't work for the Nazis. They had financial dealings.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Fred Koch, the father of the Koch brothers, made his fortune working for Stalin. Okay? Working with Stalin. I should be more accurate about that. That's where he initially made his money. And then my guess is he was racked with guilt and then way overreacted and was like, oh, the goddamn communists, I can't believe it. And so we're going to go massively right-wing and terrorize people in a different direction, etc. But like, hey, dude, I didn't make the money off of Stalin. So it's a fascinating issue that all these people at the time, they're doing business with all these guys who wound up being horrendous.
Definitely. So let's talk about the other companies because it's just so interesting. So IBM was part of that list, and back in those days, the only way to keep cheap track of huge databases was an extremely complicated system involving punch cards, and IBM was the best at constructing and maintaining those databases. IBM's punch card databases could keep track of anything. So basically they created these punch cards and it would help the Nazis keep track of the Jews. So, I mean, that is disastrous, and still till this day, IBM will not apologize or admit guilt for that. So that's another...
Look, honestly, that's as bad as it gets, man.
No, that's not as bad as it gets. I have more. So Siemens is on that list, and Siemens is known for building wind turbines and a bunch of other things. But at the time of, World War II, they helped the Nazis build factories. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's a bit of a disaster, and these factories were included where a lot of Jews were tortured and
helped the war machine, right? So they built rail infrastructure, communications, power generation, etc. Right? So you help the Nazi war machine. That's a huge issue. But to me, the visceral reaction of counting the people sent to concentration camps and helping them count it more efficiently, Now look, again, that was a million years ago. The people that work for IBM or Siemens or Volkswagen have nothing to do with that today, right? But at the very least, and most companies have done this, you've got to do a massive, like record-shattering apology. And there was a time perhaps where they should have rebranded the companies, renamed the companies.
Well, okay,
you know?
so Bayer did attempt to rename the company. They wanted to rename it something else because they were worried about the fact that they created the gas that was used.
Oh, never mind, that's much worse than IBM.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, but apparently that didn't work, so they stuck with their brand.
Yep.
So, yes, look, man, when you go back, it's a disaster. And so the one thing you got to give Russell Brand credit for, whether you agree with the way that he did it or not, is he started that conversation, and it's a fascinating conversation, right? And I don't know why, but I always thought Hugo Boss was Italian. Just because they make clothing, you figure they're Italian. I never thought like Hugo. Hugo's like the most German name in the world, right? And then Boss. And then now that I know he's German and built the Nazi uniforms, I'm scared shitless. Like, hello, I'm Hugo Boss. I'm gonna go, fuck that. Okay, I don't want any piece of this.
I also assumed that was like a stage name type of thing. Like, no one's name is Hugo Boss. I just never, it's just back in my head, but his name was something else completely.
Oh, by the way, God, the fact that Russell Brand has brought this back into the news, well, now like 67 years later, right? Hugo Boss must be like, no, what have you done?